That empty rasp filled his ears as he awoke, a sound that is both familiar and unknown, the sound of the crow. James Callow knew it, but as sleep's shadow left him, he could not be sure if it came from within or from without of his own skull. Then, as if to dispel his doubt, it came again, that hollow clatter that grinds from the throat of that bird they call vermin. James looked in the direction of the sound. He hadn't closed his curtains properly that night, and a foot-wide gap remained in the middle, through which daylight now burst to fill his room, and there upon his window-sill, as if stood upon a stage, sat a large, fat crow, its head twitching, its black bead of eye penetrating the room with a stare that seemed to James to seek his very soul. Strange bird, he thought to himself. Somewhere in his mind he recollected some old wives' tale about a crow at the window being a bad omen, a thought which gained fervour to him as the creature's ebony beak began to tap upon the glass. James glanced at the clock. He'd overslept again. Always late, he thought to himself, as he threw on his clothes, and still in a daze, hauled himself to the bathroom. Soon he was done with his morning rituals, and was pulling the door to his apartment shut, and then he was into the street, his eyes squinting in the sunlight as he unlocked his bike from some railings. Then it was there again. It announced itself with the swish of air through silken black wings, and then a single caw. James looked to it. It's that crow again, he thought to himself, as he pulled his bike up and got on it to ride away. He hurled an expletive at his winged stalker. Damn bird, he thought to himself. Why doesn't it go and bother someone else? He looked around quickly for two magpies to negate this fluttering omen of misfortune, but there were none, and he had no time to linger on petty superstitions. So he set off, riding down the road. It was only 4 miles to go for him to get to work. It should have been the easy journey it always was, but one tiny error by a school bus driver saw to it that James had to swerve, and losing control he went over a low fence and down an embankment, an accident which no one saw except for one. And so James lay there, his life ebbing away at the point of an unfortunately situated metal spike. It was then James saw an old acquaintance. A bustle of darkest feathers drew his eyes to that now familiar crow. "How did you know?" James whispered through blooded lips. The bright sky above him then grew dim to James, as the wings of that dark watcher carried it swiftly to his side. He then looked in horror, as it seemed to his eyes to transform from a meaningless critter that was previously background infill into the tall and foreboding shape of a man, decked in dark and rotted robes, his face more skull than flesh. "Knew," the man rasped. "You knew my omens of death, and yet you choose to come to meet me." he said to James.
"You're just another fool who's forgotten how to listen. And now you'll pay the price."
The image faded before James's eyes, until James could only see that crow, now sitting upon his chest. The air around him, now filling with the caws and squabbles of countless new, similar arrivals. As James's light went out, and his flesh became a feast for those gathering sentinels of the abyss.